Hello, I have a co-host with me today. This is Smokey. You want to say hi, Smokey? Yeah, he's here for cuddles. He's a very cuddly kitty. Um, so I wanted to take this intro to encourage you, if you haven't already, go ahead and read my blog posts that are immediately before this video, the ones of my face that are black and white images. You'll see reflections of what I experienced the past couple of weeks. I have not posted a vlog recently because things have been really crazy around here between my kids being sick. I feel a bit sick. I'm exhausted. My kids are not, they sleep, but there's 4 of them under 5 years old and they don't all stay asleep at the same time at night. So I'm tired getting up. It's like getting up with one after the other. So, right, this little guy gets to sleep all he wants. So I'm tired, we're sick. And then as you'll read in those blog posts, which I encourage you to read after this video if you haven't read so already, but I was serious about divorcing my husband last week. So whenever divorce comes into serious not even consideration, but whenever you're seriously pursuing it, especially as a parent, whenever there are children involved, it takes a lot of your time and energy, for especially if you're very emotionally attached in your relationship. And I know for me, I as somebody who can help explain why, like, well, why do people stay in these kinds of relationships? Like, you've considered divorce I don't know how many times now. Like, why don't you just get over with it and just do it? Like, why do you stay? It's because people like me, I do genuinely love my husband. We do have a certain kind of connection that even some married couples who haven't considered divorce don't have, kind of like that spark, that natural connection. So we do have that. I do love him, and a lot of people will stay because they can see what's beneath all the junk, all the bad things, especially whenever you gain an understanding of how some people are the way they are. You're like, oh, like, you understand that a lot of these poor behaviors that you'll see are the cause of something deeper. But for me, what it was this time around was seeing that, one, the behavior can still come out of nowhere after we've been great for a long time, but really why divorce this time was, and why did I pursue it. Like, I was literally going to pay my retainer fee the night before we decided to change our minds. I had the paperwork all filled out and whatever. I just had to pay my attorney the retainer fee. Had to hire my attorney officially. So, but what led me to that point that I pursued divorce so vigorously this time? Well, it was me accepting the fact it does take two. It takes two to salvage a marriage, to salvage a relationship, to heal, to grow. And if you're the only one who's really working on yourself, in turn, the relationship, you can't force your partner, no matter how much you love them, how much you understand why they are the way they are, if they are going to refuse to help themselves. Because at that point, my husband, last I knew, was saying that he refused to get therapy for himself, refused to work on himself. So with that statement in mind and seeing that these behaviors came out again, in full force, um, I was like, that I'm done. And, it's not even just what he's doing, it's mostly what's going on within me. I am at a point now in my life that I am confident enough, I am strong enough to be able to make such a decision and pursue it. So that's, I think, the biggest difference between the other times I've considered divorce, started to pursue divorce, was I'm in a very different place within myself. I figured out how to do it. I took the time to figure that out this time. That's how serious I was about it. So, what changed my mind this time? Well, I've been listening to this book. It's called Why Does He Do That by Lundy Croftman. It was recommended to me by a woman in this support group I'm a part of on Facebook. And I just kind of reached out to this group of women who have gone through or are going through kind of similar relationship, marital issues in their lives with either their spouse or their ex-spouse, or fiance or boyfriend, however they're related to, specifically their male partner. And so I started reading this book, and it got me thinking. So it's this book that explains abuse, particularly specifically in men towards women. This is a man who studies men, abusive men, and how they're abusive and can they recover, and how does that affect their partners. It's fascinating. So, and now the standard relationship that he addresses in his book are heterosexual relationships with the male as the primary abuser, whether that be physical or emotional. There's another cat, the one that he doesn't like in the background. So I'm listening to this book. I'll just keep it short and to the point for vlog's sake, keeping it concise. I was listening to a part of the book that mentioned that recovery is possible for abusive men, though it is rare. And it started going into, I still have to finish the book, but it started going into certain characteristics, certain behaviors that certain men are capable of who are able to recover from their abusiveness. And it got me thinking, and throughout the book, there's also the mention of the author working with the female partners of the abusive men to see the progress and what goes on. And I'm like, okay, so like, I'm not the only woman who chooses to stay, and the idea just struck me like, this is a piece of advice that I have for anybody who contemplates, considers, starts pursuing divorce from their spouse, is no matter if you're male or female, what kind of relationship you're in, is, and this is, I was given this advice, I forget by who, but a few years ago, and I've held on to it every time I revisit divorces. I have to be able to move forward 100%. For me, 110% confident that I tried everything to make my marriage work. So as I'm listening to this book last week, it dawned on me, oh, well, I need to ask him, just so I know in my conscience and can move forward, would you be willing to attend and complete a I don't know what kind of program it is specifically called. I guess there are different titles for it depending on the program. But basically, would you be willing to enter and complete a program for male perpetrators of domestic violence / abuse? I I totally expect him to say no. I told him at the end of it, like, I understand. Just yes or no will suffice. You don't have to explain yourself. I totally expected him to say no, and that was going to clear my conscience, and I was going to pay my retainer fee the next morning. So he was out. I sent him that question before on his phone before he went out for a little like milk run, and I got our kids to bed, and so by the time he got home, I was asleep. Like, I was so tired, and so I wake up. He tapped my shoulder, and he asked me if I could stay awake for at least 5 minutes for a quick conversation. And I was like, yeah, that's fine, okay. So my husband had a thorough self-reflection of of his actions and what were trying to discuss and everything that led up to where we were at this point. So there was thorough self-reflection. There was an apology, and he brought up courses of action for himself, to work on himself. So those are important aspects of somebody who is capable of changing their behaviors, is a genuine self-reflection, a genuine apology. Bonus for me is my husband provided courses of action that he determined for himself and for me and for us as a couple. And furthermore, it's been going on a week since we had this conversation, and he is following through. He has gotten himself a therapist. I am not spoon feeding him anything, because in the past, I'd be like, oh, like, read this, read that, like, this helped me, blah, 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 it might help you. No, I'm only going to give him things if he requests it. So he set himself up with a therapist. He had his first therapy session today, and that's tremendous for especially an adult male to pursue therapy, because it is still very much taboo. Mental health is taboo, therapy is still a bit taboo, but especially for men. So anybody who knows him and it ever comes up, just encourage it. And I encourage men to seek therapy for themselves. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you, it only helps. So it sounds like it's going really well for him so far, and we are so again, it's only been a week, so there's only so much you can do in a week, but so far so good. He's following through on his words, already started therapy for himself, so he has that accountability. And I'm continuing therapy for myself, my medicines, and I'm looking into the programs for myself. So things are going really, really well. That's why I chose to stay. Thorough evaluation of what I needed to know and what I wanted from this relationship, and I was pleasantly surprised. So